make it there and can make it back.
Salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have a very comfy today conversation about the nuanced ways that travel intersects with regular life. If you are watching on the YouTubes, you could see that I am draped in the finest of housewares. I absolutely love this sweater. It was one of my grandpa's sweaters. And I do not believe in actually, that's partially a lie. I was going to say I don't believe in turning the heat up higher than necessary now that I'm paying for it. But I really think my shit's at like 74, 75 because boyfriend also likes to have the windows fucking open. Neither here nor there. Welcome the fuck back, y'all. We're here. I'm going to start with a little announcement. Toot toot. First, thank you to Wanda for putting me on. It was quite a fuck of a day. Today was not a good day at all. It was quite difficult, to say the least. And trying to figure out how to phrase it next. So I was included in a list by Amira. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, not appropriately. Thank you, girl. I appreciate you for including me. And the news came at the perfect time because I really needed a lift in spirits, if you will. So I'm very happy to be included in the top 10 travel podcasts to listen to in 2022 on Travel Noir. So that is... It felt good. It felt fucking good. So thank you for that. And thank you to all you guys for listening, because you don't get included on lists when no one knows you're here. So I thank you guys for sharing Travel and Shit with your friends and for pulling up on whatever platform you listen every week. Also I'm on, Facebook. So you can see my comfy little house sweater and shit. So thank you, Amara, and thanks Wanda for putting me on, for posting that in your stories. I appreciate you. And I'm very happy to be amongst Wanda and other really great company in the list of travel podcasts for you to be checking out. So make sure that you head over there and show everybody some love. I will include that link in the description notes, along with the links to 2 of the giveaways that I am doing. I wanted to really show you guys some love. I truly do appreciate you guys being here and listening to the podcast. So I enjoy supporting Black-owned businesses and small businesses and people that I actually just believe in. So I've done the Akia Nicole giveaway. I've done the Alma Ocean giveaway. And I now have a giveaway both for $50 gift cards to Channel Chana. It is my favorite vintage shop to actually shop online. Like, I purchase with my own money. I buy stuff from Channel Chana. Love their shit. And also doing a giveaway for a gift card to the Remy Rain collection. Last week's guest, Celicia Shears, and her adorable 6-year-old, and she made the cutest little appearance at the end of our episode. They've got a boutique online that has a really nice selection of, I don't want to just say kids apparel because it's like sweatshirts and t-shirts, but they also have like backpacks and water bottles and a lot of useful things to travel with children with. But also it shows a beautiful little Black girl on the stuff, on the merchandise. So it is nice to see yourself represented in the items that you use. Your kid's going to need a backpack, and your kid's going to need a ton of things throughout the year while they're going to school, whether or not you travel with them or not. And I felt that a giveaway, a gift card to shop with Remy Rain Collection could really give you the opportunity to put the battery in the back of one of the little babies in your life that you love so much and want to inspire to grow through travel the same way you do. So I've got those 2 giveaways. And of course, those links will be in the episode show notes. And I also have a request. I would just like you guys to take the listener survey for me. I really want to give you guys more of what you want and less of what you don't want. If there is anything in particular that you want to bring to my attention, any suggestions, any guests, or anybody that you have in mind that you would like to see on the podcast, throw it my way. I have all those questions laid out for you, and there's a blank space for you to put, closing remarks, if you will. And that will also be linked in the description box, but that is actually a bit.ly link. So that's bit.ly/TNS listener survey. Made it easy for you. So those are the announcements. And I'm going to jump into this week's episode, which is kind of an homage to... not really an homage to the end of the year, but it's one of those things where you sometimes, depending on your personality, who you is, spend some time at the end of the year, focusing on a lot of the things that you didn't do, right? So while it's I don't want to say the era, but like the space and the time when people are looking towards next year's resolutions, things that they want to do. A lot of people also at this time are considering all the shit that they didn't get to, or the things that they are regretting throughout the year. It's a time for reflection, if you will. And a lot of us have that list of shit that we didn't get done. And so with that in mind, I kind of wanted to remind you that a lot of times the things you don't do end up being just as much of a blessing as the things that you do. So sometimes you got to dig a little deeper to find the blessing or to find the lesson. But that's what I'm here for. Nuanced conversation. So to start, I have it kind of broken up into two different segments. I have the one that I'll start with that will be the things that I absolutely easily, flashing lights in front of me, can say, yeah, there was a lesson here. I can see why, this actually worked out for my better, not my better good, but for my greater good. And damn, that was like a duh kind of moment, my better good, for my greater good. And then there are a few things that, I can't really say that I necessarily know what the lesson is, but I am never beyond or above growth. It doesn't have to make sense in the moment, right? It doesn't always come to you immediately. A lot of times they say the mistakes that you relive, or I generally hear it in relation to relationships, where the lessons that you don't learn, you're basically forced to repeat. So sometimes there's a consistent kind of, okay, you're not getting it, so let's try to season it a different way, right? Sometimes you just got to have things stew a little longer for them to kick, for the flavor to really hit. I got there. It took a minute, but I got there. So to start, let's jump with Bermuda. Bermuda was actually my first, the OGs, y'all know. The Bermuda trip was a surprise trip. I wasn't supposed to be in Bermuda. I was supposed to be in Martinique. I think it was Martinique. Yeah, I was supposed to be in Martinique. Thankfully, to start off, the thing that I didn't do that ended up being a blessing was not booking anything in advance. I had all of these plans, but I am so happy that I did not pull the trigger on booking any of the excursions and activities that I wanted to do in Martinique. So that trip ended up falling apart, didn't go. ended up being able to cancel and mostly get all of my money back, because at the time I was still booking the whole trip through like Expedia. It was my first trip. I ain't know no better. There's nothing wrong with booking completely through Expedia. It's just not my taste, not my jam anymore. But I was able to get everything back. That is a benefit to booking with a third party such as Expedia, because they will often be that middleman to do all the runaround and legwork to, tie off any loose ends should something arise. And in this case, the trip not happening wasn't my fault. Something hit the plane on the ground. It wasn't anything like dramatic or anything in Martinique. So it wasn't able to do whatever. They couldn't pick us up. My departing flight from New York was not going to happen. They had a contingency plan that did not sit well with me. Apparently they were going to put us on buses the next day to Boston to fly out. I was going to lose an entire day of accommodations, maybe a lot of the next day, and that just wasn't of interest to me. So canceled that. Shout out to Expedia, got all my shit back except for one day at the hotel because they were unable to get in touch with them. Whatever. I knew it was difficult to get in touch with them because I had tried prior and had a really, really hard go. But that didn't work out, and I ended up in Bermuda off season. So I went in January 2017, and it's also the only trip that I know exactly when it happened because it was the first. Other than that, somebody can say, "Oh, well, when were you in Thailand?" I was actually having this conversation with a coworker yesterday or the day before yesterday. And turns out we had been to a bunch of the same, destinations. Like we'd been to China, Thailand. What was the other place? We had gone to Bali within a similar handful of years. But I'm just like, I just know it was between 2017 and 2020. That's all I got for you, fam. So the trip from jump was not what it was supposed to be. And what I chose not to do was feel sorry for myself. I was there. I was on vacation. I was out the country. I had my little passport stamp. And I really think that fuck it, I'm going to have a good time attitude is really what saved the day. Since it was January, it was still comfortable. And by comfortable, I mean like New York comfortable. It was like the 60s, low 60s to low 70s. The hottest it got the whole time I was there was like 71 degrees. And it barely felt like 71, but I got in the fucking water because all I packed was bikinis and tank tops and shorts and maxi dresses. I had one pair of leggings and like a chambray button up from Gap that I bring just about everywhere that I travel. And so I was quite ill prepared for the weather when I got there. But I made the best of it and I had a great fucking time. I ended up just Googling all of the experiences and I looked up all the experiences on, say, like Expedia and Viator. I don't think that I was really into Airbnb at the time. And I don't even know if they had experiences at that time either. I'm not certain. Don't quote me or hold me to that piece of information. But I looked into a bunch of the excursions and experiences that I wanted to do and realized when they were all like not happening because this was their low season, that the ones that, obviously not the ones that were on the water because that wasn't an option. It's too cold for them on the island, I guess. But the ones that were on ground, the ones that I could take a bus to, walk to, take a taxi to, I could figure it out. Like, I'm from New York. I figure out my way to get everywhere. And I have a shit sense of direction. So I'm used to figuring out where things are just because I never really know where they are anyway. That being said, I had a really kick-ass time just wandering around, getting on the bus, getting off in the city. I don't want to say I hitchhiked, but I did accept a ride from a stranger. Wasn't, I won't say it was my finest moment. However, it definitely wasn't as salacious or janky as it sounds. I had just spoken to the gentleman. He worked at the museum/aquarium/zoo, all in one. Gorgeous, great fucking time. He was one of the either a ticket agent or worked at the gift shop. I just remember he was behind the register with the other young lady that was directing me where I could go to see an island where they used to publicly hang slaves. And I was waiting for the bus, and the gentleman, I guess, finished his work shift and was like, older gentleman. He was probably, I don't know, maybe 30s, 40s. Don't remember. Black don't crack, right? So older gentleman. And he was like, he was walking towards his car in the parking lot, which was near the bus stop. And he asked if I wanted a ride. He's like, well, I'm on my way into town. I'm going into, the main city area. Would you like a ride? And I'm okay. And so he drove me in, and on the way in, he was able to pass by the island that I'd, spoken to them about finding my way to on the bus. And mind you, the young lady told me that I should take the bus because they don't have a lot of sidewalks. And she was saying that the area that I was in was a little precarious. And it was just like, girl, you better off on the bus. Sit on X side and look out this way, and you'll be able to see it unobstructed. And so he was able to drive past that so I could see it. And then as we were driving through, he's pointing out other places of importance and landmarks and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up working out in my favor. But I think overall, the non-defeatist attitude, the just figure it the fuck out, is really what got me through it. And I can never mention my Bermuda trip. At least I try not to mention the Bermuda trip without mentioning Miss Joyce. She was, I want to say, not concierge, but like hotel, maybe event staff, or she was the person that was in charge of activities and information, guest services, if you will. And I went down to her desk and I was telling her, so anything Black history, I'm interested. And when I say she went above and beyond, she went above and beyond. She was actually an American that moved there. She married a Bermudian. And she was from Virginia or something like that. And she was the sweetest and the most helpful. She ended up putting together a little packet, handwritten, long, note/letter, because it was that long, with words of encouragement and ideas of places to go. And it's got to be somewhere in this apartment. I know I wouldn't have thrown that out. But yeah, so first step. No, you're going to kick ass. You're going to kick your vacation, your trip, your experiences ass, and you are capable. You can do hard things. It's actually one of my favorite quotes. I don't know who the originator of the quote is, but I got the quote from, I want to say it's Maya Eloise. She is Maddie James's sister. They're both very popular, successful influencers, and I really just love their... I'm just kind of regular, but I'm also very popping. Like, I do the work. I do the damn thing. I'm proud of me, and I'm here to share and help you be popping too, I guess. But Maya Eloise is where I got that quote from. I can do hard things. And when I tell y'all, that has gotten me through so much over the past year or so. So if you ever hear this, girl, thank you. If you hear this and know her or can get this to her, let her know I said thanks. So thank you for that encouragement. But you can do hard things. Everything doesn't have to go your way for it to work out the best way. And Bermuda, thankfully, as the first trip, was the beginning of that realization for me. Second time that I actually chose not to do something and it ended up really being the best choice for me was in Costa Rica. So I had booked a beautiful beach excursion. I think it was like snorkeling or something. I was really looking forward to it. I'd spent a good amount of money, maybe $100 to $150 on it. And I think it was the night before. And for some reason, I had seen another option available. This time, the option was going to be zip lining and horseback riding and nature walk. I had so many options and food was included. And this was going to be at Turubari. And when I tell you, I had the most magical experience. I can't imagine my Costa Rica trip without this entire day. It was absolute perfection. And what was the deciding factor for me was that I'd been to beaches. I knew I'd go to dozens of other locations that had beaches, but I'd never been to a rainforest. Like, I'd never been to, I don't know if it's considered a rainforest, a jungle, a forest, the woods. Nigga, I ain't been to no big ass space with trees. I think outside of like national parks, you know what I mean? Like Valley Stream State National Park in New York, Hedger State Park in New York. Don't think I hadn't done any of the Canada trip. I hadn't done Alberta, which we did quite a few national parks up there. And beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Canada has some of the best scenery, like the most beautiful views I can think of. If I can, let's just say there's a list of 10, Canada's got at least 6. It just breathtaking, Canada. But I ended up choosing to go to the rainforest because I hadn't been before. I'd been to a beach. I knew I'd go to another beach, but I didn't know when my next opportunity to be in the middle of the jungle was going to come. So I lost out on the money I'd spent on the beach excursion, and I ended up booking the excursion to Turuwari. I'd never gone zip lining before, so that was a big deal. I'd been skydiving, believe it or not, before I did zip lining. And so I was just like, well, I enjoyed that. Fuck it. Let's do it. So I did zip lining. I ended up doing the nature trail, tried termites, which actually surprisingly taste like carrots. 2 out of 10, don't recommend. But if you have the opportunity and somebody tells you, no, this is definitely a termite here, you can try this. I've done it. The guy did it. There's a video someplace. I don't regret it. I just don't recommend it. But it was a really fun experience. I did so many things I'd never done before that day. Also, funny as it's kept, I don't consider that the day of many firsts. I consider my trip in Cuba. I had a day in, I don't even know where the fuck we were, in terms of like what city or town it was. I'll try to look that up because now curiosity has me wondering. But I generally credit that day in Cuba with my day of first, like just being a very significant day in my life, where I did so many things I'd never done before. But in hindsight, I'd actually done a lot of stuff that I hadn't done before in Costa Rica. But that trip, Costa Rica is definitely one of those quietly good times where once I start dissecting the things that I like, when I think back of all the best trips I've had, Costa Rica does not come top of mind. But when I think of some of the best experiences I've had, it absolutely does. So it's weird, that disconnect, the way they don't seem to align in terms of proximity to, top of mind. But it is what it is. So I lost money. I chose not to do what I'd initially booked. However, it ended up being for the absolute best. Sometimes you got to lose to win. And in this case, that was the case. It worked out phenomenally, and I have no regrets in that aspect. What did I have next? I've got, actually, oh yeah, okay. So that, well, I'll get to that. I'll make that the go-between. So next that I have on here is London. So this was interesting, if you will. So I, in all of my let's give it a shotness, decided that I wanted to be like my good friend Terry O. If you haven't, go back to, I want to say episode 4 or 6, maybe. My homie Terry, here's a I don't know what to call it. Sorry, I'm touching the mic. I guess a fact about me. I guess this is a fact about we. Terry was my prom date. My high school prom date. I've known Terry since I was in high school. I don't know if we knew we may have known each other before high school, but I've definitely known Terry since high school. But I had him as a guest because he was talking about a trip that he did to Cali where he didn't book anything. He kind of just pulled up and figured it out while he was out there. And he had an incredible fucking time. And so I said, I want to try that. My goofy ass decided to do that at the end of a mini Euro tour. I didn't book shit for London, just kind of pulled up, no hostel waiting. I had a return flight. Let's not get too crazy. But I didn't have any accommodations. I didn't have any place to stay. And I had the entire day to get through with my flight. I don't even know what time it was the next day, but I had all fucking day to be in London. And I had probably what was my first anxiety attack. I just sat there and cried. Because by then I was not only exhausted, I was also broke. I'd overdrafted in the bank. All I had was an Amex because I don't really have, well, at the time I didn't really have too many credit cards. I just had like store cards, revolving cards, like a Macy's card and a Saks card, maybe a Gap card. I don't even know. But the point is, I didn't have like a Visa to use. I had my Amex card and my debit card. And I don't know why, but it just wasn't, you know how when you're tired and you're just overwhelmed, some things just don't click as quickly as they should. And one of the things about Amex is while there are some great perks, a lot of places just don't accept Amex. And at the time, I was booking my hostels. I haven't stayed in a hostel. I've only stayed in hostels, I want to say, in Europe. And at the time, I was booking through Hostel World. And a lot of the accommodations did not accept Amex. So I think I had like some cash on me. But I wanted to book the hostel in advance before I got there because I was worried about something. I don't remember what it was, but y'all, I was just fucking stressed. And it was the beginning of what I thought was going to be the worst trip of my life. And it just I just really was in what's the word? I guess not a slump, not a hump. I was it was a real fucked up spot to be in. I wasn't happy. So I ended up, by the grace of God and a great pep talk from my dad, I ended up just figuring it out. I ended up booking where my little brother stayed a few years prior. He had gone to Rome and London, and I think he did someplace else. Probably some other places in Italy. I don't fucking know. But he was in Europe for maybe like 2 months, I guess. And I remembered I'd taken a note or saved it or something. My brother said he stayed at Hostel B. I don't remember what the fuck it was called. But my concern was staying in a co-ed dorm. I ain't trust none of these niggas. I don't know none of these Euro kids or wherever the fuck they were traveling from. And the last thing I wanted to be was stuck in a hostel, like a 16-bed hostel with males and females. I don't trust strangers as is. So it's bad enough you're going to stay in a hostel, right? But then it's another thing to now be co-ed. And dudes are just a different kind of gross. And I also feel like there's a different level of negotiating that you can do as a woman with a man that doesn't, I don't know about you, but flirting is how I get men to do what I want them to do. Period. So, because generally appealing to greater sense doesn't always work. So I just turn on the sweet voice, play dumb, and ask for what I want in a really indirect or direct, depending on how I read you, way. It works for me. So I didn't want to have to deal with all of that. And so I was really stressing over the idea of being in a co-ed dorm. I ended up doing a co-ed dorm, but it was a smaller one. I think it only had 4 beds. And so I figured, well, I got 3 chances of being stuck with a complete total asshole or a really gross or possibly dangerous man or woman. But at this point, I'd spent a couple of hours crying in the airport, so it was pulling the trigger. Went, and I also almost didn't leave the hostel. I laid down for a little bit, and thankfully I had some friends talk some sense into me. And I'm trying to think of what her name was. I see her face. Sharmila was really like, bro, you didn't go this far to not see London. Like, go outside. It was night, and I really was like, word, I did really just stress. I spent the last handful of hours wasting daylight, wasting time, and I finally figured it out. At this point, like, I have some place to sleep. Like, I paid for the room. You're good. Eat and see the town. So thankfully, I didn't let what started out as a bad time become a bad day. I didn't really get stuck in the rut. I chose to make the best of the situation. I chose to get out of my own head. And thankfully, I had some nudges, some pats on the back. So, pro tip, assemble a squad. Assemble, friends or family, people that you know if something goes wrong, or if you just need somebody to spin an idea past, or if you just need to check in with somebody, someone to share your location with, or someone to say, wait a minute, have you stayed here before? Have you been here? What are your suggestions? You don't have to contact them, but it pays to have them on, either in a note on your phone, whether you, text them and have a thread, in WhatsApp. Do whatever works for you. Just write down the list of people that you can reach out to if you need motivation to do one thing or another. If you would prefer someone talk you out of spending money while you're someplace, have that name or that number, or even depending on who you are and what kind of assistance or direction that you may want, preface it. Let them know, hey girl, I'm going to be in Andorra. Bitch, it's tax free, duty free. If I text you, remind me that I just bought a new car, or remind me that I'm saving for, so that I can move because I hate my roommates, whatever the fuck it is. Think on your personality and try to put things in place that will help decision making in the future a little bit easier. And about that knowing your personality part, I learned the hard way that I'm not a show up and, fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl when it comes to lodging and accommodations. That's something I'm not really willing to gamble with in the future. A bitch wants to know where I'm going to sleep. So I now know that while I enjoy loose plans, while I enjoy a little bit of spontaneity, it doesn't extend to accommodations. I now know this to be true of myself. So I would say, consider your own personality, consider who you know yourself to be while you're at home, and don't necessarily throw all of that to the wind. Keep that in mind with how you decide to make your accommodations and how you decide to, make and change your plans while you're abroad. If you know that you tend to be, super spontaneous, or if you tend to be kind of loose with money, or whatever it may be, maybe stash some cash in your suitcase. This way, it's not on your person when you're out and about and spending money. So now it's like, okay, yeah, I want this, I want this, I want it, because you have the cash on you. If you know you're just going to buy it, leave something behind so that you don't spend all of your money and now that ass can't eat, or you're relegated to pizza in Rome because you had a good time spending money on things that weren't food. Know thyself. What's next? Okay, so I'm going to move Qatar up. And so Qatar's a little bit on both ends of the list that I was telling you about. So this second half that I'm going to go into are the things that I chose not to do that I don't know if I got the lesson from. But these stand out as some of the things that I can say I regret. I don't have many regrets in life. I have things that I would do differently probably, but I don't necessarily know that I can stamp them as a regret. I truly believe everything happens for a reason. So I'd like to think that me not doing these things kept me from, I don't want to say harm because I don't like speaking that onto, my travels, but it made for the situations that I needed to grow from, or it made for the environment and space of, better decision making, if you will. So let's start off with a really poor decision. So went to Doha in Qatar, and great time, fabulous time, except for one, I didn't really do too much. I was there for about 72 hours, give or take. Yeah, give or take. I wasn't there longer than 3 days. And while I was there, I ended up doing a free city tour. Thankfully, I made the last one of the day, but it was at night. So I didn't really get to appreciate the city that we were driving through to really say, I'm definitely going to visit that, or, oh, I can't miss that. It's gorgeous on the outside. I want to see the inside. I was actually staying really close by. I think it was a museum. I had a beautiful view of it from my hotel room, and passing, I said, I do want to visit that because it sounded interesting when the tour guide was mentioning it. I just never left the room and never went back. So I ended up spending maybe one full night in the room. And in hindsight, part of what I regret is not going out and exploring during the day. But it is what it is, because what turned into... So, okay, let's start this way. I ended up not booking anything in advance on this trip either. This trip is where I learned that your best bet, if you're not certain about what you want to do, is at least figure out what your window of opportunity is. So if you know you are going to be at a destination on Monday and you do not have an entire week to play with, say you're only going to be there Monday to Wednesday, or if your trip is, Thursday to Sunday, however it falls in the week. In advance, look at the things that you may be interested in: paragliding, jet skiing, sailboating, making chocolate mousse, plant classes, whatever the fuck it is. Go to whatever app you plan to book it through and look and see what their window of opportunity is. If you see that this event or opportunity is only listed on Tuesdays and you're flying in on a Monday, consider that you may want to book in advance and just cancel, because if they don't let you book short notice, you're asked out. Or if it's one of those things that tends to sell out quickly, you're asked out. So where I fucked up was I needed to book at least 2 days in advance of the actual date that it was going to happen. So if I wanted to do something on Wednesday, I had to book it on Monday. So while I had arrived on Monday and wanted to do the event on Wednesday, I didn't look into doing it until Tuesday night. And so at that point, it was too late to book for Wednesday, but I was leaving Thursday morning. So there was no other room for opportunity because there was that 2-day window that I had to book something. So that's what I mean by, if you're not certain you want to do it, at least know what your window of opportunity is so that you can decide before you miss the opportunity completely whether or not it's worth risking the money that you would spend. So I would have spent $75 for a desert tour. It was one of those, I call it like the roller coaster ride, because it really just feels like a roller coaster, just, driving through the dunes in the desert. Incredible time. I would have spent $75 if I'd booked through Expedia with the whole, I think, 2 days in advance, because it was going to be a group trip. There were going to be, the opportunity for other solo and group travelers. And you know how you just end up being a solo traveler on a group of like 8 or in a group of 4, 12, whatever the experience number is. I was supposed to book through there, missed the opportunity. So I ended up calling the hotel desk to see if they could make that happen. And of course they could, at a charge. I think I ended up spending $250, $300. I spent way more than the $75 that I actually intended to spend. Pro tip, don't look at the total cost difference, like $75 versus like $275. Consider that, let's just use those numbers because numbers not my ministry, right? So let's consider $75 and $275. $275 is a shit ton more than $75, right? But consider it, am I willing to spend $200 because it's really only $200 more than the $75 you were going to spend anyway? So for me, the price difference is where the magic happens. Is this worth the price difference to me? And that's how I kind of, I don't want to say break even because you ain't breaking even, but mentally, that's how I break even. That's how I can rationalize spending more than I want on something that I really do want. So, I mean, in hindsight, I wish, or I would have chosen probably, don't know that I would be telling the truth there if I said I'd do anything different, because I want to say that I was tired as fuck. I think that was the first time that I'd really experienced a little taste of jet lag. And also, I was a little intimidated from the night before. So I'd gone on that free airport tour. Well, I say airport tour as if you're touring the airport. You're not. Sidebar, there are like 5-star or 6-star, what do you call them, airports. I think there's only a handful of them on the globe. And when I tell you like 5-star, like hotels in the airport, like 5-star hotels in the airport, Hermes, Chanel, it's like walking down Fifth Avenue, but like in an airport. There's a lot more to it than that, because you could probably find a Chanel store in Atlanta or Miami. I don't know, because I don't really, I don't really care to see what's going on in Atlanta or Miami airports. But this one was kind of a little snazzy, y'all. It was snazzy. But that's the thing. Look into like 5-star, 6-star. I think it was 6-star. One day I'll look it up and have that information for you. But the airport itself is wild. And the airport, as long as you have 6 or so hours in your layover, will allow for a free local tour, like a bus tour. You stay on the bus. Certain parts, you just do a little walking around, get off, stretch your legs kind of thing, and then get back on the bus. But there's a specific visa for that depending on, where you are. Not all countries just allow you to leave the airport and, shake your ass outside someplace. I had a visa that allowed me to do more than just do that tour. I ended up deciding on walking from the end of that excursion, that turned out to be a clusterfuck. I ended up almost losing my suitcase, and I almost didn't find my tour group. I won't really say at any fault to my own. I was literally like 1 minute or 2 minutes. Like if we had to meet at like 7:30, I think I pulled up at like 7:31, 7:32. But my tour guide had known that I had that visa that allowed me to leave the tour and stay in the city, because they knew that I wasn't going back to the airport with them. But I'd left my bag on that bus. So I guess they did their head count, realized that everybody that's supposed to be there was there because they knew I was staying. But I had my bag on the bus. So I wanted to meet with them, get my shit, and then go. Anyway, really incredibly kind shopkeeper helped me find the group and get my bag back. God bless him. Well, Allah's blessing on him. And well, all the same, right? Higher power. So he ended up helping. And then once I got that squared up, I decided to walk from the open market to the hotel. It was maybe a mile, maybe mile and a half. Couldn't be more than a 30-minute walk. Probably less than that. It was probably only a mile, because I think, had to be less than a mile, because I think ultimately it shouldn't have taken me longer than 15 minutes to get there. The young lady said, straight up that shot. Just walk up straight. She failed to tell me that there's no fucking sidewalk for the whole route. And the cobblestone, it turned from sidewalks into like cobblestones. And now I'm on the side of like a 3-lane each way like highway. So that got not safe pretty quick. And so I had to take a quick detour down like a side street. Side streets weren't exactly I won't say that they weren't exactly safe, because I don't know. But it was nighttime. Thankfully, it was during Ramadan, so there were tons of people outside, but there were also tons of people that could give a shit about helping me outside. I tried to ask for directions, tried to ask for help, and I got ignored by the few people that even decided to look at me. There was one guy that, now mind you, I'm walking through alleys. Like, I don't know where y'all from, but where I'm from, you don't walk down alleys, especially not by yourself. My goofy ass decided to walk down, and I was very alert. I wasn't, drinking or doing, it wasn't like on some poor decision because I wasn't really thinking straight. It was I really just want to get where I have to go, and I know I'm only 10 minutes away and it's a straight shot, but the little dot on the map wasn't really helping. And the one gentleman in one of the alleys was like, taxi, take a taxi. And that was all that he knew how to say. But I was hell-bent on walking, and at a certain point I found I was walking through like a parking lot or a parking area, and it felt like there was a car that was starting to kind of creep up behind me, and I really started feeling uncomfortable. So in hindsight, that is one of those things where I chose not to do something, and it didn't actually end up probably being the brightest idea. So while I was able to benefit quite a bit overall on the Qatar trip from not doing some things, like booking in advance, in this instance, it wasn't the case. I definitely probably didn't make the best choice in that one. Thank God it didn't turn into anything crazy. And it really could have been me in my head, because I am very much so a crime thriller girl. Give me a movie or a show that's got a detective or an investigator, a serial killer. That's my alley. Absolutely that's my deck of cards. Fucking love it. So it could have been the crime junkie in me, but I don't know. It just felt like I missed, like it felt like that was close. And I don't like that. So there's that. Next one. Ooh, this one is a real sore spot. Thailand. So Thailand came right after Qatar. Qatar was actually my layover. And then I was in Thailand for maybe 4 days or so. Maybe 4 days, 3 nights, or 3 nights, 4 days. I don't fucking know, because I slept through like a day and a half of it. That's where I remember my jet lag really, really hitting. I was wiped. I was wiped. And it was rainy. It just really wasn't, and I arrived at night, so it was easy to just go right to sleep. And then when I woke up, it was real like cloudy, and it wasn't eliciting a, hey, wake up, come on, let's go eat and see and experience things. Nah, I slept the fucking day away. Turns out the next day, I get up, I try to book Fifi, and the lady says, oh, yesterday would have been perfect. It rained here, but the weather was beautiful there. And it was actually, I won't say impossible, but I could not find my way to Fifi. And I was so butthurt. Absolutely regretted not pushing through jet lag for that one. And the beach that I experienced in Thailand was absolutely disgusting. It was repulsive. I was up to maybe knee or thigh height water, because wasn't letting it go too much higher than that. And I couldn't see my feet. Could barely see my fucking kneecaps, because the water was that gross. It was worse than the New York beaches, promise you that. And shit kept hitting me in the water, like styrofoam, seat belts. There was trash on the belt. Like there was nothing attractive about it other than it being an actual beach. But yeah, I hated my beach experience in Thailand, which is sad because Thailand is known to have some of the world's most beautiful beaches. And that was not my experience. So in that case, the things that I chose not to do in that one, the whole not getting up and taking advantage of my time in a location, that I regret. Next I have, this one also hits kind of hard. So went to Israel, want to say the end of 2018, I think. And or was it 2019? The end of 2019 to 2020? It may have been the end of 2019. Y'all, I don't know. I think it was 2019. Anyway, it was the year, I want to say she was Miss Universe. Zozo Tunsi, is that her name? I don't recall that. Retention is not my ministry, guys. Memory is not my strong suit. But I remember because I was in the train station, and I have, if you haven't seen what I look like, this is not only do I have this adorable, gorgeous face, but I don't have any hair. I got, I don't even know if this is a fade. I just know my boyfriend just cuts it all off. Zit. No hair. And she was just like, oh, Miss Universe, beauty queen, you're so beautiful. Oh, what? And I was just like, what? And I remember that night before, or 2 nights before, I want to say it was Miss Universe, was a black woman that had a really low fade. So, thanks for putting us on the map, sis. We always been popping, but for international kind of recognition, just on some, oh, black woman, pretty, short hair. The two can be like, can occur at the same time. Like, you don't need hair to be beautiful. So that was nice. I do remember that experience. But again, that jet lag, man. Jet lag is one hell of a drug. So I'm laying in the bed in Tel Aviv, and I was so sad to realize that I would be missing, because I was leaving the day before, or the day of a beautifully, at least worded, it would have been the perfect tour. It's culture and food. I love a good walking tour based on culture that also touches on local cuisines and local foods. And that's exactly what it was. But it was all of the immigrant populations, all of the immigrant communities in the Tel Aviv area. And the way they wrote it up in terms of like we go by people's homes or we stop by mom and pop restaurants and we really talk to the people about how they got here, what their experience has been. Like it seems like such an incredible experience. And I was not going to be there on the only day of the week that they did the tour. So I was really disappointed about that. And then I decided, but that was out of my control, right? So I don't beat myself up for that part. But what I do kind of look back on and say, ooh, girl, you should have fought through, was not going to Jordan. So I could have booked a day tour to Petra and done the Dead Sea. Now, mind you, this was the end of the year. This was this was December. Don't know how warm or not it would have been, but I don't remember if I looked up the temperature or not because jet lag brain, and I'm certain I wasn't being very smart at the time. Well, clearly I wasn't because I didn't book the shit. But I regret not going to the Dead Sea, and I forgot what the other part of the tour was, but it was a 2-part tour where you visit Jordan. And I would have loved to have, had that experience, but I decided over the comfort of bed. So I would say, pro tip, don't make your decisions from bed per se, unless you really have to. If you are deciding whether or not you want to get up and go, make the decision from the bowl. Like get up, go pee, go poop, whatever it is you got to do, and decide from there. Like once you've gotten off your back, off your side or your stomach, however you decide to sleep. But once you get out the bed and like move your feet a little, then decide what you want, because it is so easy to decide to wait another day or put it off for another time or put it off for another experience or another day, another time, when the comforts of a bed and warmth are right on you. So that I do regret. I do regret not going to explore a different area. And it's not like I really did that much exploring of Tel Aviv that day either, because I just ended up staying in the bed for most of the morning. Early afternoon, I did get up and walked around to a couple of different shops, but I'd missed the market. I was staying right by like a main market that's supposed to be really popular locally, not just for tourists, but it's got everything. Produce, housewares, other foods. It's pretty cool. But by the time I got there, everything was wrapping down. So I missed out on getting something to eat from the area, and I had to search out. I was vegan at the time. So I regret not going. And I regret kind of getting out and about later in the day, because I would have been able to experience more of the local community had I, made the efforts to, leave a little bit sooner. But overall, I had a good time. I did end up having a good time in Tel Aviv. And that also was from just wandering around. Like I just walked to get food. I took the long route. I'm a wanderer. I'm very much so a wanderer. I don't need hardcore plans to have a good time. I could have a good time just going for a fucking walk. Comfortable shoes. Comfortably dressed in terms of temperature. Like, am I cold or am I hot? You know what I mean? I like to be comfortable. And once I'm comfortable, I could walk all day. Well, not all day, but most of the day. So yeah, that kind of leads me to the next, I won't say regret, but so did Rome. Was it before then? Rome was right before London. So let's say that was 2018, early 2019. No, actually, I think that was all the same trip, because I was in Amsterdam. Nope, because that was Austria end of it, and it wasn't that cold. So that was a different trip. It wasn't the that wasn't, I think I did Netherlands and Amsterdam and London, Europe, I don't know. But Rome, I ended up doing a shit ton of walking. And that's what the connecting topic was for me. Walking. I walked everywhere in Rome. I don't know that I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I stayed in Trastevere. None of the major attractions were more than a mile of a walk away, maybe 2 miles. I think I can do about 3 miles before I need to sit my ass down for a hot minute. But everything was walkable. I walked everywhere. I did so much walking in Rome, and it rained for quite a bit of it. But guess what? It rains here in New York. I still got to get to work. I could walk in rain as long as you got the right shoes. So I was good. I have an umbrella. Keep it pushing. Sometimes the rain was light. Sometimes it was heavy, but you make the best of it. And I certainly did. I did a really, really nice day where I walked down to St. Peter's Basilica. And the regret for Rome was that I didn't do the Sistine Chapel first. I didn't look into the closing times closely enough. I knew roughly that St. Peter's Basilica would close before the Sistine Chapel. I just did not expect to spend as much time in St. Peter's as I did. So, yeah, I love churches, not because I am religious at all, but I think churches are some of the most ornate and beautiful buildings on the planet. Like any country you go to, people love their gods, man. They will build like the most beautiful dedications to whatever God it is they serve, man. And all them fucking buildings generally are gorgeous. So I enjoy a good church. And I very much so underestimated how much, and I spent a lot of time there. And I did not get to really experience Vatican City. I didn't get to go to see the Sistine Chapel, which I would have loved to see. So in that case, it was just poor time management. There was really no like dramatic or catastrophic occurrence. It was just, damn, I could have made that work. Like had I just kept walking, done the Sistine Chapel first, by the time that closed and I'd gotten out, I would have pretty sure still had maybe 2 hours or so. Like I would have still had time, if I'm remembering correctly, to go to St. Peter's Basilica. So in that case, I do regret not managing my time a little bit better so that, I would have been able to get the most out of that day. And I think the last one I had on here was in St. Bart's. I ain't let my mama buy that bag. Damn. I don't know if you remember that bag or not, but that bitch was bad. It was gorgeous. So that's it. It's just the material good. Other than that, no regret from there. So ultimately, just wanted to touch with you guys and lay on your hearts, if you will. At the end of the year, don't spend too much time necessarily hyper focusing on what you didn't do and letting it be a spot of contention or a place where you're able to point out and highlight your failures if you do find yourself leaning in that direction with it. Consider it a way to remind yourself that sometimes choosing not to do something or not having the opportunity to see something through low-key be a blessing. A lot of times, I think all the time, everything happens for a reason, whether or not it is, a reason you are aware of or not, doesn't mean that it's not all for your greater good. So, not spoiler, but update. So I still don't have a fucking car. My engine died back in Seattle, beginning of November. It is the end of December. I am still borrowing my mom's car now. And I still have no idea when the stars will align and I'll have everything in order with the new car. So I already bought the car. It's just that it's a private sale and I am waiting on paper fucking work. Patience is not my ministry, but I figure, you know what? This is the universe forcing the lesson of patience on me. Remember earlier in the episode, I said sometimes there are lessons that we have to learn, and the universe will keep finding ways to teach us the lesson. And until something is no longer a lesson, you're going to have to kind of go through it. So yeah, patience is still something I'm working on. And I am doing my damnedest to not look at this as, a stressor, which I'm having a very difficult time with that. But I am trying to take my own advice here and not focus on things that didn't go my way and look at them as, see, this is why I can't do nothing right, or this is why I can't have nice things, or it's not time, or there is a better way for this to work out. I am choosing to remind myself, as I do every week with you guys, that travel is more than vacation. And in this instance, it is a reminder for me that not everything that I consider a wrench in the plans is actually a knocking down of the entire tree, if you will. It can still go right. And as long as I don't stay in my bag, I can make the best of it. So I am going to go into this holiday season with, just trying my fucking best, y'all. I am doing my best, and I'm hoping that that is enough. I appreciate y'all for showing the fuck up with me every week. And I am looking forward to seeing yous next week as we close out the year. So I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, because at this point, this will air the day before Christmas Eve. I want to say that, it'll be the day before Christmas Eve. And so whether you're hearing this before or after Christmas, I don't know when y'all gonna listen to it. Happy holidays, y'all. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy whatever it is you celebrate. If you don't celebrate anything, happy Thursday. All right, y'all. It's been fun. Bye. See you next week.